well-designed flower garden. I know that all of us go to the store and we see those beautiful flowers and we buy them, and sometimes when we get them home, they don't work for our zone or they just don't fit into our garden right. So those are things that I want us to talk about and knowing what we can do to achieve our garden design. When I first moved out to Palmer, we had 10 acres and it was up to my creativity to see what I came up with. And I was a complete novice. Um, I planted bulbs upside down. That didn't work very well. I didn't know the difference between an annual and a perennial. I didn't know that perennials pop back every year. And I just generally didn't know what I was doing. But over the years, there have been people that have helped me. There have been magazines that I've looked at. You can get tons of ideas through magazines. Not so much what plants to use, but for design and for layout. And so there's three things that will help you more quickly achieve your goal of making a beautiful flower garden. And that is, have a plan. What is my layout? Know your color palette and know what plants work in your area. So let's look at a few of those. What is my layout? And from Story's Basic Country Skills, I was able to pull some pictures that show different designs that we can use. There's the oval. There's also the classic bean shape. And sometimes there's really no shape. Like if you're just doing a woodland area and you just want to throw some greenery in under the trees, that's very effective and it doesn't have to have a distinct border. When you're working against a house, rather than thinking in straight lines, think about curving out. Think about creating hidden places and places of anticipation. Paths are wonderful that. A curved path leads you to wonder what's at the other end of it. And so it walks people through it. As they did the curve, they did some bushes and shrubbery around here. They went from a father's bench and took a gravel path over to another bench where there was a bird bath. And here along the house, rather than just putting trees straight, they zigzagged them a little bit and put other shrubs with them and even some large rocks. And those are things for structure. And we want to remember that our flower garden needs structure. So whether it's a rock or a bird bath, a bench, or even a fence, or an old tree is wonderful for giving that feel of an established garden. Here you'll see a more formal plan, but still very basic. It took some large trees, some medium trees, some smaller trees, and then put some grasses along this path that they have here. And you can see that it was very effective in giving you that older feel, and also giving you a place to go. And it gives you a place of anticipation down this path. And the backdrop of the large forest behind is wonderful. Then we have to decide what our color palette is going to be. And sometimes we can make the mistake that we just throw a whole bunch of color at the garden, rather than doing large swaths of maybe one or two colors in our garden. So looking at the color wheel, we can see straight across from each other is very effective, purple and yellow. And you can even go purple and orange, so just not next door. That's our big thing, is that we don't want to do colors that are right next door to each other on the color wheel. So either straight across or skipping one to get there. So blue and orange, blue and yellow, purple and yellow, purple and orange. Those are effective. Women's Day article, Color Power, wrote that for a restful and harmonious color palette, you do your pinks and your purples. That's very effective and easy to get in Alaska. That's more the colors that we lean towards. And then fresh and light, so adding yellow and purple, and white. White is very effective for shaded areas, and you'll notice that a lot of your shade plants, their leaves will have some white on it. And it's just a wonderful way to sparkle in the shade. Lastly, what plants do we use? And that is an ongoing question and a fun one. You can go to almanac.com and that will tell you for your zone what plants will grow and how to grow them. If we look at this map here, you notice up at the top of Alaska is the blue zone. That's zone 1. That is the coldest. And then it goes down from there. Zone 2 and 3 is what we see in the Palmer, Big Lake area. Palmer can be typically zone 3, sometimes a zone 4. Alaska or Anchorage has some zone 4 areas, and as further down we can even get to a zone 7 here in Alaska. But when we buy those plants, the things we want to look for are usually on the tag. It will tell us the color of the plant, the name of the plant, how tall it is, when it blooms, and if it's going to be effective in our zone. So here it tells us it blooms in summer, and it tells us it needs full light, how high it's going to be. It needs to be spaced 24 inches apart preferably, and it's good for zones 3 through 9. So we know that echinacea is going to be effective for the Palmer area at least. So again, you're going to create a layout that helps you achieve your goal for this flower garden. You're going to choose a palette that works together and takes into consideration things around it. Choose plants that fit your area. These are all tips that are going to get you started on this wonderful adventure of design. It's a lifetime of enjoyment to be had in a flower garden. Ultimately, start small, enjoy the process, and leave yourself room to change your mind. Soon you'll find you're addicted.